Okay, today is the 14th day of Trump's war of choice with Iran. And the Secretary of Defense, as I was just talking about with Chris, and if you didn't see this, boy, held not one, but really two press conferences. And within the first 5 minutes of one of taking that microphone, he made very clear what his priorities are.
Some in this crew, in the press, just can't stop. Allow me to make a few suggestions. People look up at the TV and they see banners, they see headlines. For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate? Or more fake news from CNN. Reports that the Trump administration underestimated the Iran war's impact on the Strait of Hormuz. Patently ridiculous. CNN doesn't think we thought of that. It's a fundamentally unserious report. The sooner David Ellison takes over that network, the better.
Okay, I just have to note, he was reading that from a piece of paper. It wasn't him just spouting off. Somebody wrote that for him. He wrote it for himself. He agreed to read that. I would just note. I mean, and that, I think, tells us what Pete Hegseth thought was a priority today. Criticizing headlines and cable news banners he saw about the war, telling people how he would have written those headlines instead. And he's gloating that the Trump-aligned billionaire who's set to take over CNN will sanitize the network's coverage to make it align with the administration's PR agenda. That is, of course, the reference to the Ellisons there. This press conference was held on the morning we learned that 6 more service members were killed in Trump's war with Iran when their plane crashed over Iraq last night. Pete Hegseth stood at that microphone for almost 9 minutes before even mentioning those fallen service members. But he was sure to get right to his media criticism near the very top of his remarks. In fact, take a look at the way Hegseth reacted when he was asked a very specific and predictable question about U.S. casualties.
How many American casualties have there been, and where were the American service members when they were injured?
I mean, it's a bunch of return to duty. So we've had the large majority have gone in for some medical treatment and return to duty.
You catch that there? I mean, I showed you part of what he said in the beginning of the press conference. He seemed, though, pretty unprepared for a predictable question on American casualties, which is the most important question right now, how this war is impacting the men and women serving our country. But he had plenty to say about the media's coverage of the war. And what was, again, about that coverage that so offended Hegseth? What exactly did he take issue with?
For example, a banner or a headline, Mideast war intensifies. What should the banner read instead? How about Iran increasingly desperate?
He's literally talking about what you see on the bottom of your screen. Hegseth lashes out at the media over war coverage. Accurate banner, by the way. That's what he's talking about. But how dare the press? How dare they write a banner or a headline as blatantly biased as Mideast war intensifies? They should talk about how desperate Iran is instead. That's the point he made. Takes some real liberal media spin to use a word like intensify to describe this war, doesn't it? Well, here's a headline written 3 days ago that appeared on the website of Pete Hegseth's own department. Quote, Hegseth says U.S. attacks intensify under epic fury. And I wish that was the most asinine thing that Pete Hegseth said this morning while addressing this war, but it's not. In that same chest-thumping press conference, Hegseth also gave an update on the Strait of Hormuz, the vital waterway that 20% of the world's oil shipments pass through, which Iran has effectively shut down during this war. Well, the Secretary of Defense echoed this rather profound observation about that situation today.
The only thing prohibiting transit in the Straits right now is Iran shooting at shipping. It is open for transit should Iran not do that.
So just to kind of summarize that. So there's a good chance your ship may blow up from Iranian missiles, mines, or drones. But hey, other than that, the Strait is totally open. Everything's all good. Thanks for that crack analysis there, Pete. Look, a lot of what Hegseth had to offer today was insane and ridiculous and offensive at times. But perhaps the wildest thing was this.
We will keep pressing. We will keep pushing, keep advancing. No quarter, no mercy. for our enemies.
Now, no quarter, no mercy for our enemies, what he just said. I'm sure Pete Hegseth thought that line made him sound like some kind of a real badass. I mean, perhaps it was another one he practiced with a hairbrush in front of a mirror just to see how tough he looked. But unfortunately for him, it might also be a war crime. I mean, because declaring no quarter is essentially saying that you will not allow your enemy to surrender on the battlefield. Now, this is from the 1907 Hague Convention, a treaty the U.S. has been a party to for over 100 years. Here's what it says, quote, "It is especially forbidden to declare that no quarter will be given." But hey, I mean, maybe all that international law stuff doesn't float your boat. That's okay. Maybe you're more of an America First kind of guy or gal. That's fine, too. Well, the U.S. military's own Manual of Military Commissions has a whole section prohibiting anyone with command or control over troops from declaring that they should give no quarter, an infraction that carries a maximum penalty of life in prison. And look, you could say that maybe this was a slip of the tongue from our Secretary of Defense, a reflection of inexperience, who knows? But remember that Pete Hegseth is on the record opposing the Geneva Conventions. He's moved to fire or reassign many of the military lawyers tasked with making sure the U.S. military follows the laws of war. And just yesterday, The Atlantic reported that Hegseth has proposed a ruthless overhaul of how those thousands of lawyers operate under his command. Hegseth has also refused to publicly release the video of an alleged double tap strike in the Caribbean, which some military lawyers say violated the laws of war. And he has personally targeted members of Congress for telling service members not to follow illegal orders like, say, giving no quarter to your enemies. So I don't know that Pete Hegseth has really earned the benefit of the doubt on this one. I really don't think he has. It's also extremely concerning to have someone like Pete Hegseth running the Defense Department right now, because despite what Pete Hegseth may want us to say, this war does seem to be intensifying. I mean, we can see that with our own eyes and from excellent reporting out there. And of course, it's not just Hegseth's decision-making here that's so concerning. It's also the commander-in-chief, who's currently weighing boots on the ground. Now, Nemes now can report that the U.S. is now moving a Marine Expeditionary Unit with 5,000 Marines into the region. And that's a unit that typically includes ground combat troops. And while having one in the region doesn't necessarily mean we will put those boots on the ground in Iran, that those men and women will serve on the ground in Iran, it often is the first step toward that kind of an action. So it is something worth raising and worth talking about. Marine Expeditionary Units were how the first ground troops deployed to Vietnam. They were the earliest combat troops to be sent into that war, kicking off the slippery slope of deployments that characterized the next 9 years of U.S. involvement in Vietnam. You know, Vietnam, the war that Trump got out of by claiming to have a bone spur in his foot. Seems Trump has now he's come full circle, because today he actually has said that this current war, the one he started, will end when he, quote, feels it in his bones.
When are you going to know when it's over?
When I feel it.
Okay.
I feel it in my bones.
Donald Trump's bones, making all his military decisions for him since 1968. How good should we feel about that? And it turns out that Trump's bones may be just about the only thing he is listening to right now.
What are the dynamics when you have a big decision like Iran or Venezuela? Are people speaking up and speaking their minds, even if...
I let them speak their mind, and they do. And we have some differences, but they never end up being much. I convince them all to let's do it my way.
People speak up. He lets them. How kind of you. All the military commanders with decades of experience. They speak their minds, and then, well, Trump convinces them all to do it his way, that by his telling at least. That is the way major decisions in this war seem to be being made, according to Trump's whims. At least 13 service members have died. We've lost access to a major shipping route for critical goods like oil and fertilizer. We've moved military resources out of strategic positions. We've limited our ability to help allies like Ukraine. And for what?